Lieutenant Governor Dewhurst.
Oh, that brings back some memories, Dad. Wow, what a mess, what a mess. Good looking t-shirt, wow. You're the prize for best dress. Wow, but photo voter ID, don't let people tell you, is an absolute necessity. People will like to say, and reporters will report, that there's really no voter fraud going on. They're either lying or they've been asleep for the last 10 years. Ed, didn't we hear that night example after example after example? Not only from your office.
We had 600 cases of voter registration and voter, I guess, theft, ID theft that we presented.
Absolutely. And the one lady that was trying to get credit from the University of Houston that starts, and then of course the exam was about to, the course was about to be over, so she manufactures a lot of names and starts registering people.
Yes.
That's a felony. And then the lady that was sending numbers out to El Paso and having them resent back in. This is a problem. That's why I was determined to pass photo voter ID. And it plays into some of the things which I wanted to say today. But that bill took 6 years to pass. I had to pass it 3 times. And it took change in the Senate rules because the Democrats were trying to block it with the senators' 2/3 rule. We had to change the rules. And then I had to pass it in the second session and the third session until finally the House passed it. But as a result, it's one of the things I want to share with you. That I was talking to a lady about a month ago and she said, you know, I shouldn't tell you this, but I normally don't vote. I'm a Republican, but I don't vote until you pass the photo voter ID, and I felt like my vote's going to start to count. And we heard that, remember, Ed, from the Secretary of State from Indiana and the Secretary of State from Georgia, that when they passed photo voter ID in their 2 states, they saw their turnout increase because the people started to say, hey, my vote's going to count. It's going to count. This morning, and I change things around from time to time. If you heard me speak before, you won't recognize some of the things I may say today. And I'm not just saying that because I've got a number of friends who are here today that just heard me the other night. But I was trying to address some of the things that may be on your mind. And then I thought I'd stop. I thought if it's all right, I'd talk for about 10 minutes or 12 minutes. All right. And then stop and have you ask me questions. Because I always like to hear from you. But I've been traveling all around the state of Texas, as you can imagine. It's not like we've got a district right here in Harris County or in the adjoining several counties, but the state of Texas, and I've known this all my life, is a big, big state. But I'm delighted to be here. You may or may not know this, but I live right here in Houston with my wife and our daughter. And so it's a real pleasure to be back home. It's a pleasure to be anytime, though, in Texas, because Texas is such an awesome state, isn't it? It really is.
We're number 1.
Well, let me pick up on that. When I tell people that Texas is number 1 in every economic category worth reporting, sometimes people will tell me, well, how's that? And it always kind of hurts my feelings. And I want to tell them, well, you mean other than my great leadership? Because modestly, the lieutenant governor plays a large role. If bills don't pass the Senate, unless you're pushing them through, like a fullback. But the majority reason, Texans. What I tell people is the reason why Texas is number 1 is because more Texans live in Texas than in any other state. That's why we're
Thank you.
I mean, just think about it. Today, Texas is the best state in the country to do business 3 of the last 4 years. You don't feel so bad about the year that we were that we weren't number 1 because we were number 2. All right. Today, Texas is the strongest economy in the country. If we were a separate nation, nah, I'm not going to go there. We were a separate nation. Would be the 14th largest economy in the world. Isn't that amazing? When I came into office 10 years ago, our GDP, total economic, the world, gross domestic product, was 750 billion. You know what it is today? 1.5 trillion. It's double. And I wish I could take credit for all that, but quite frankly, and I'm trying to make a point. I'm actually not trying to take credit, but it's because of all of us. It's because of Texans. You see, when you talk about all these jobs that in the last 3 years, you all have created more new jobs than the rest of the country combined. Now just think about that. We have 8% of the population. How is it that 8% of the population creates more new jobs than the rest of the country combined for the last 3 years in a row? What I said a moment ago, we're number 1 because we have more Texans living in Texas, is really, really true. Over the last 10 years, you all have created 2 million jobs. 2 million jobs. Folks, that's awesome. Absolutely awesome. We've got an election coming up on May 27th. It's an important election. I'm always disappointed at how few people vote, even strong conservatives. We're going to have, the history is that some 2.5 to 4 times more people vote Republican in November than vote in March. And where we are in our election cycle, the election is in March, in the primary, or the runoff in May. And so, what are you looking for in your lieutenant governor? And I mean that sincerely. I'd love to. What are you looking for in your lieutenant governor? Honesty, very important. If your lieutenant governor doesn't have the integrity and there is no trust between the senators, and the Senate breaks down. It doesn't work. What else are y'all looking for?
Somebody that can work with people from very diverse philosophy and backgrounds. It's not all the same.
That's right. The being able to work with different people, forge relationships. What I'm hearing is that this election isn't really about me, and it's not really about Dan. It's about what's in your best interest, what's in the best interest of the state of Texas, and what's in your children's best interest. This election will have an influence on whether your children have the same or better opportunities all of us had growing up. And that's huge. I'm running for re-election because Texas is at a crossroads. We're number 1, no question about it. We're number 1. But there's one fact I didn't share with you. I waited just a moment. We're also number 1 in our population growth. People have heard of Texas. They're coming here at the rate of some 1,200 people a day. Our population between today and 26 million will grow to some 45 to 50 million people over the next 40, 45 years. Wow. We're going to have to double our water. We're going to have to double our lane miles. We're going to have to double our electricity. And we're going to have to do it in a way that we stay conservative. We stay the course. We stay, in my judgment, both fiscally conservative and socially conservative. And we've got to protect liberty. If we don't protect liberties, if we don't fight against Washington, then all this is for naught. I'm all about opportunity. My dad came back from World War II. Years later, married mom. Years later, I was born. Years later, my brothers were born. and then a drunk driver ran into him and killed him. The reason that I have a special place in my heart for my mom and all moms is because I saw this lady go to work as a secretary, work 2 jobs, come home and do homework with us, sacrifice, skimp for years and years so that her 3 boys could have some things. And so when she got sick, there wasn't a question. The boys came together and we took care of her. And that's what you should do. That's what you should do. But I led a blessed life. I'm born American. I'm born here, right here in Houston. I had 2 rocks growing up. My mom, who I knew was always there for me, and the Lord Jesus Christ. I don't wear my religion on my sleeve, so I'm stopping right there. But that's been a big influence in my life. I wouldn't be who I am without faith. And I think that's where most of us are. And so I'm running for re-election because I want to keep this state red, Republican, conservative. I want to keep this state growing. I know how to grow an economy in good times and bad. Just think back on the last 10 years. When I came in 10 years ago, our economy was good. Today, it's great. I'm not taking credit for all that. All I'm saying is that government doesn't create jobs. What government does is either create a great business climate, or a good business climate, or a bad business climate. And you know which one I picked. I worked as hard as I can as a lifelong businessman. We got 29 statewide elected officials in Texas. 29. I'm the only career business person. Isn't that amazing? To me, it's always been amazing. I think we need more business people who understand the bottom line, have a feel for what you need, what others need to come and invest. We all know, and I know from experience, that capital is liquid. I want to keep Texan money in Texas and bring in other investments. That's what I've been trying to do for the last 10 years. I want to see more investment in Texas because every new job creates more opportunity. Almost all of our revenue as a state comes from consumer spending. Sales tax represents about 2/3 of our 60% of our revenue. We have property taxes that are coming in. So at the end of the day, we want to make sure that the consumer, the state gets no benefit from the property taxes. 60% of our revenue is from a sales tax, and the remainder, a motor vehicle sales tax, severance taxes, are all related to consumer spending and how the economy's doing. So I want to keep the economy strong here in Texas, so there's opportunity. Now, one of the things that I've tried to focus on is what are we going to do over the next 4 years to make sure this state stays number 1? Economy. We've got to make Texas even more prosperous. We've got to continue cutting taxes and continuing creating as much opportunity as we can. In the legislature, I've passed out 54 bills that have cut your taxes almost $16 billion over the last 10 years. I want to come back and do the same thing I did in 2007. Pass a cut to local school property taxes, which will cut your property taxes. My opponent talks about ending property taxes, which, is, you know as well as I do, is controlled by the cities and counties. It's sort of like he's going to make the water rise. He's going to come up with a solution for hair loss. But as you look at real things that can be done, real things, we can cut local school property taxes, which represents 60% of your tax bill. Did that in 2007, we'll do it again. Each year, each session, I've cut taxes. Last year, I cut taxes by $1.3 billion. And we can go back and cut taxes, both business and individual taxes, even more. This past year in 2013, I wrote a bill and passed it that I felt strongly about. because I kept running into businesses all around the state of Texas that I would say, how's it going? How's your business? And I kept hearing, I can't find trained workers. And I said, why not? And he said, well, they're either failing the basic education test or they're failing our drug test. So I wrote a bill and passed it last year out of the Senate that requires drug testing for Texans on unemployment. And you know why I did that? Because I don't think you want me to be paying for people to stay at home, sit on the couch, play video games, and do drugs. I want to include welfare. We passed out welfare and unemployment. The House killed welfare. I want to come back and pass it again. I want to continue our efforts on improving our public schools. We've got some great teachers. We've got some great principals. We just don't have enough. And one of the things that I passed out last year, the House killed that one too, and that was a parental trigger. I love that. I love giving parents more choice on where their children go to school. I tried to push for a school choice bill with opportunity scholarships. We're going to have a more conservative group of senators this next session, but we only got about 9 senators who were supporting. We needed 21. And so we've got our work cut out for us. We have a lot of work in front of us. But on a parental trigger, I love it. If your child is trapped in a failing school, there's too many failing schools. We've got to put our children first and not the bureaucrats and not the educators. So a parental trigger says that if your child's caught in a failing school for 2 years, at the end of the 2 years, go to your PTA meeting, because you'll be able to vote to fire the independent school district, bring in a high-performing independent school district to turn things around, or a high-performing charter, bring in KIP, somebody, and turn this around and go ahead and pay rent to the local school district. But we've got to put our children first. People talk and talk and talk about our southern border. If you know me, if you know me, I'm not a big talker. I don't shout. I do. I got tired in 2006 of the line by the Border Patrol. They were going to secure the border. They were going to secure the border. There are a lot of fine people in the Border Patrol. Don't get me wrong. But the leadership is in total denial. When they keep saying, and Barack Obama says, that our border has never been more secure, that is simply not true. Go down with me. You're invited. We'll go down the border. I'll show you Brooks County. I'll show you the footprints, the new footprints each night. I'll show you all along the border. I'll introduce you to people that live on the border. I just had a longtime property owner just the other day say, thank you for what you're doing on the border, David. What am I doing on the border? Starting in 2007, I said nothing. So I started appropriating money, working with the Governor Perry, working with the Speaker, and we have made a huge investment, your state, in the border. We've got high altitude spotter aircraft that can see 6 miles into Mexico. Infrared, we can see at night. We've got helicopters with infrared to see at night. We've got 6 armor-plated gunboats on the Rio Grande with infrared to see at night. What's my point? We've been building up assets. My opponent says, well, if you're serious about this, you could have done all this last year. We didn't get to critical mass until September. And so I pushed for a month-long surge. You know what we did? We shut down the whole sector from the Gulf of Mexico to Laredo. Surge operation, nothing moved. People didn't move. Drugs didn't move. Meth, cocaine, heroin fell to the floor. We seized $186 million of stolen currency, United States currency. All right, it is doable. We've been working, and now we're at the point. A little bit of help, a couple $1 million more out of a $100 billion budget, several $1 million more per month, 3, 4. We can run a 24/7 surge, shut down the whole border from El Paso to the Gulf of Mexico, and send Barack Obama the bill each month. So that's where we are. I only get paid $600 a month, but I get paid in a higher currency. Now I'll just give you a feel. I was block walking one Sunday it's really distinctive to me. I remember this so clearly. It just happened to be in Senate District 7, which is my opponent's district. And I was knocking on doors, and a lot of people, yeah, and so we're giving out a lot of yard signs. Knocking on this one door, and this lady opened the door. I mean, I give you her name, but it's not necessary. And she looked at me, and she said, "David Dewhurst." I said, "Yes, ma'am." And then she got me. She said, "You helped save my life." I went, "Wow." She said, "I know the story. You got a startup funding for an inflammatory breast disease program that none of the medical schools wanted, and you pushed it through, and that helped save my life." But that's not me. I hope you're clapping for yourself, because all I am is I work for you all. I just thought that was important. I ran into one of the public school physical trainers, the athletic trainer, and he said, "You remember that bill you passed in 2007 that requires automatic external defibrillators in every school, and every school should have several people trained?" I said, "Yes." In 2006, there was a high school senior in Austin that had a cardiac arrest, and but for a cardiologist who was trained to use an AED, the boy's life would not have been saved. There was no one there at the game that knew how to use it, and so we passed a bill. We changed that, and last year we had 24 kids. Their lives were saved because of that. We just think of the parents and the pain they would have had. People walking up to you and saying, "Thank you for cutting the taxes, because if you hadn't raised the floor on the gross receipts tax, margin tax, I couldn't be in business today." When people, as I shared with you, couldn't have been in a situation to live on the border. You may ask, "David, big surprise, you came in second in the primary. Can you win?" You bet. Two-thirds of all second place finishers win the runoff. 2/3. Not only that, without going into a lot of information, we've gone out and polled thousands of people. And elections are about choices, right? And if people know the same thing about me that they know about my opponent, just things that are in the newspaper, we win hands down. Big numbers. And so my job is to go out and talk to the Houston Pachyderm Club and to talk to people all around the state of Texas, to share with them who we are, what's in my heart, what I want to get done, and how we move the state of Texas forward. It's about a choice. If people know Dan Patrick and they know David Dewhurst, we feel comfortable at the end of the day they're going to vote for David Dewhurst. We got to make sure all of our friends turn out. I'm actually, whether you're for my opponent or for me, please go vote. I'm a proud military veteran, served in the CIA overseas in the mountains of South America. People have died for the right to vote. Please go vote. And particularly if you're wearing one of these really expensive, nice-looking little, where it says Dewhurst, but this is true for everybody, for everyone. So see if you get 10 friends to turn out who didn't vote in the primary. I think it's very, very important. The more people turn out, the better this whole country works. Again, there's a big difference between me and my opponent. At the end of the day, just picking up on some of the things which you all have said, I think, if I know y'all, if I know Texans, at the end of the day, you want a lieutenant governor that can get the job done, that pays attention to the scoreboard. And whether it's passing the biggest pro-life bill in the country, and as a result, all the 4 major largest pro-life groups have endorsed me, whether it's Sean Hannity liking what we've done in Texas and supporting me, whether it's Kathy Adams who runs the Eagle Forum, whether it's Pat Tibbs, the president of the Montgomery County, go on and on. Grassroots, Tea Party, business people, single moms, dads, I'm in there fighting for you. I want to make sure that our daughter has the same or better opportunities we had growing up, and I want that for every single one of you. So let me just say thank you for being here, and thank you for being Republicans. I trust everybody's Republican. And thank you for caring about this state, because we got the best state in the country, and it's up to us. When Ronald Reagan used to say, you know, you need to, in essence, you need to pay attention, you need to fight for freedom, because it's something that can be lost in one generation. So thank you all for inviting me today.